The NBA season is finally wrapped up, all 82 games in the book, and now we have the NBA playoffs. And over this video, I will be telling my NBA playoff predictions, including my play-in predictions. And that's enough explaining. You basically have the memo, and yeah, let's hop right into it. So first up, we have the number 10 seed New Orleans Pelicans versus the number 9 seed San Antonio Spurs. And I feel like this one is going to be a close game, but not as close as some people think. I feel like DeJounte Murray is going to try to carry this team way too much, and I feel like CJ McCollum's going to have an amazing game, and Brandon Ingram's going to help. Brandon Ingram's going to have like 20, and McCollum's going to have like 30. Valanciunas is going to hold down the boards and the inside, and yeah, I have the Pelicans winning the first play-in game of the year. Next up, we have the 7-seeded Timberwolves against the 8-seeded Clippers. I think Paul George is going to put on a show, and the Clippers, who have been amazing without him, are going to also put on a show. That being said, I feel like the Timberwolves have a lot of fight in them ever since Patrick Beverley got there, and they're on such a hot streak right now. I feel like the Timberwolves are just going to overpower them, especially down low. We're going to say because they have Cat as a center. No disrespect towards him, but I think the Timberwolves, I think Cat's going to go off. I think Ant's going to go off, and I feel like the Timberwolves are going to come out with this one, and they will take the 7th seed in the Western Conference. Next up, we have the 7th-seeded Cavaliers. The 7th-seeded Nets versus the 8th-seeded Cavaliers. Flat out, I just think that Kevin Durant is going to be too good for the Cavaliers. I think missing Jared Allen's really going to harm them. I feel like that's a key component that they really need to be successful is Jared Allen. Darius Garland's going to try to carry this team, but I think Kyrie and KD are just going to be too much for the Cavaliers to handle, even with their big man lineup. And yeah, so the Nets winning this one. Next up is the 9-seeded Hawks versus the 10-seeded Hornets. LaMelo Ball has looked great in his sophomore season, but the Hornets will be missing Gordon Hayward, I believe, due to a leg injury. But the Hawks, I feel like they have, even though there have been reports of some chemistry issues, I feel like the Hawks have that playoff experience from last year when they made the Eastern Conference Finals but lost in 6 to the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks, that they'll be able to get out of this play-in game, and they will face the Cavaliers. Next up, we have the 9-seeded Pelicans and the 8-seeded Clippers to get into the playoffs, and I believe that Paul George is just going to be too much for this Pelicans team, who's just so young, and I feel like they're not going to be able to perform well. And they were the 9th seed for a reason, and the Clippers were the 8th seed for the reason. So I have the Clippers winning this one pretty easily. Last play-in game, I have the 9-seeded Hawks against the 8-seeded Cavaliers. Again, I feel like the playoff experience by the Hawks is just going to outnumber the playoff experience by the Cavaliers. And again, Jared Allen missing is going to be a huge loss for the Cavaliers in trying to stop this Hawks team with Clint Capella and John Collins, and you have Trae Young pulling up from half court. Yeah, I feel like it's gotta be a Hawks pick, and the Hawks will take the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference and face the Miami Heat. Now we get into the actual playoffs. Now the plan is over, and we will have the number 1 seeded Suns face on the 8th seeded LA Clippers in the first round of the Western Conference. And I feel like this is going to be an easy win for the Phoenix Suns. Might be generous here. I might give the Clippers a game. It's either going to be a win in 5 or a win in 4. It's going to be a sweep, but I feel like Paul George is going to carry the heck out of the Clippers one game, and I just feel like the Suns, this might be the Suns championship to lose. Maybe that's a spoiler for the rest of the video, but yeah, I got the Suns winning in 5. Next up, we have the 4-seeded Magic versus the 5-seeded Jazz. Now, there are 2 ends of the spectrum here. I feel like Luka has to win this. I feel like this is almost a tribute year. I feel like if he doesn't, NBA fan doesn't win in the first round this year, NBA fans are going to call him a quote-unquote playoff choker, with how they did with Paul George for a few years. And for Donovan Mitchell, I feel like if he gets eliminated in the first round, which I think he will, I feel like he's gonna get upset. There's already been rumors of him having tension with Rudy Gobert, and I feel like that's how they're just gonna grow if they lose in the first round again. And yeah, so I feel like the Mavericks are gonna take a win, and Luka's gonna win his first ever playoff series. Next up, we have the 3-seeded Warriors against the 6-seeded Nuggets. The Warriors have just looked so good as of late, even though Nikola Jokic is the MVP. The Warriors, without Steph Curry, have just been amazing, and imagine them with Steph Curry, they're just going to be even better. So I have the Warriors winning this one 4-1, and then I have the Mavericks beating the Jazz in 6. I forgot to mention that. And so, yeah, so the Warriors will be moving on to face the winner of the 2-seeded Memphis Grizzlies and the 7th-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. Next, to end the first round in the Western Conference, I have the 2-seeded Grizzlies against the 7th-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. And I feel like Cat's gonna put up a fight, but I feel like the Grizzlies are just they're too hot right now. This team has so much chemistry, they work together so well, and I have the Grizzlies getting the first sweep. Well, I don't know if it'll be the first sweep, like, schedule-wise, but, like, of this video, the first sweep, beating the Minnesota Timberwolves 4-0. Next up, we have the 1-seeded Suns versus the 4-seeded Mavericks. Again, I don't care how hard Luka carries this team, they're not going to be able to get past the Phoenix Suns. This 64 and, 12-win team? I don't know exactly, but I think they have 64 wins. This team's chemistry is just too good, and I feel like they're going to beat the Mavericks in about 5 or 6 games. And yeah, so the Suns will be going to the Western Conference Finals. Next up, we have what I think is going to be the most exciting series. I think it's going to go to 7 games. I feel like it's going to be the Warriors versus the Grizzlies. The Warriors have been so hot as of late, but so have the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have been clicking as a team, so have the Warriors. But the difference is Warriors have been clicking as a team without Curry, and now that they get Curry back, I think they're going to beat the Memphis Grizzlies in 7 games. And I feel like that will be the end for the Memphis Grizzlies. However, they will have a bright future going into the next season. And that brings us to Western Conference Finals, where I have the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. The Phoenix Suns were just here last year, and the Warriors have been here many times before. And I feel like the Phoenix Suns will come out with the victory. I just feel like this team's chemistry is too much to handle. When their star players are out, the bench players step up and vice versa. And I feel like they just work together, they bond together. And yeah, the Phoenix Suns will be moving on to the finals. Now that brings us to the Eastern Conference, where the 1-seeded Heat will be facing the 8-seeded Atlanta Hawks. And even though the Heat have had some chemistry issues, I just think that Jimmy Butler is going to try to carry this team. And I feel like Bam Adebayo is going to clamp down Capella and Collins. And they have Hero coming off the bench, and so I feel like, yeah, the Miami Heat will be getting a first-round victory against the Atlanta Hawks. Our next Eastern Conference matchup will be the 5-seeded Raptors against the 4-seeded 76ers. And I think the Joel Embiid will just be too much for the Toronto Raptors and Pascal Siakam. And James Harden, he's going to do okay in this series, I feel like. I feel like I have the 76ers winning in about 6 games. Next up, we have the 3-seeded Bucks against the 6-seeded Bulls. And this one's pretty simple. The truth is, the Bulls just haven't been able to win in big games this season. Maybe that turns into the playoffs. However, I think the defending champions, they've been here before so many times, and obviously they won it last year. I feel like Giannis is just going to be too much. I feel like Vucevic isn't going to be able to stop him, and neither will DeRozan. And yeah, I feel like the Milwaukee Bucks will come out with this win probably in either sweep or 5 games, and it pays me as a Bulls fan to say that. The last first-round matchup in the Eastern Conference will be the 2-seeded Celtics against the 7-seeded Nets. This is going to be a very exciting series, and I feel like the Nets will come out on top. Or not the Nets, I'm sorry, the Celtics will come out on top. It will be a very close series. It's going to be 7 games. And I think it all depends on Robert Williams. If Robert Williams isn't back, then I feel like this is going to be pretty bad for either team, but not either team. If Robert Williams isn't back, it's going to be pretty bad for the Celtics, but if he's back, Celtics are going to come up on top. It's going to go to 7 games no matter what, though. Our first second-round matchup of the Eastern Conference will be the 1-seeded Miami Heat against the 4-seeded Philadelphia 76ers. And I feel like Bam Adebayo is going to put a good job claiming up Joel Embiid, and I feel like the refs most of the time swallow their whistle in the playoffs meaning they don't call more stuff, and that's going to pain the 76ers, who really almost rely on free throws, I want to say. But yeah, I feel like the Miami Heat defense is going to show up in the series, and I think Tyler Hero, again, coming off the bench is just going to be too much for the 76ers, and I have the Miami Heat winning in 6 games. That brings us to our final Eastern Conference second round matchup, which will be the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. And this will also be an amazing series. I have it going to probably 6 games. And I feel like Giannis is going to do what he does best and power through everyone, even Robert Williams, even though Robert Williams is just going to try to slow him down. And I feel like Jason Tatum is going to try his best this series. Jaylen Brown's going to try to carry the load as well. Pause. But I feel like the Milwaukee Bucks will just come out with the win and do what they always do and become miracles. And now in the Eastern Conference Finals, to go to the finals, it's the 3-seeded Bucks versus the number 1-seeded Miami Heat. And I feel like this is going to be kind of close, but not really. I actually have the Bucks winning in 5. I feel like Giannis is going to go back to the finals. He has a finals experience now, even though he has a playoff. This isn't the finals, it's just the playoffs. But I feel like he's going to have that intensity to him. He's going to have that drive. And he's going to be able to power through his Miami Heat team, who, in my opinion, is a little bit undersized. They have Bam, obviously. However, but I just feel like Milwaukee is just going to come up on top here and get the win. Now that brings us to the NBA Finals. My prediction, it'll be a rematch of last year's Finals. It'll be Bucks Suns again, and it will be another intense series, and it'll go to 7 games. Giannis is going to drop maybe 250 pieces. Chris Paul is going to go off, and I have the Phoenix Suns winning the NBA Finals, their first in franchise history. And I think I have Chris Paul winning Finals MVP over Devin Booker. It's going to be close. They're both going to show out and put on big games. And then I just think the Suns team, they gel too well together. They're so good. They're so consistent. And I feel like they are just one of the best teams when they're hot and when they're healthy. Now, obviously, these predictions are barring no injuries. Obviously, if Giannis tears his ACLs off for the season, that's going to affect the Bucks. But this is barring no injuries, and this is how I see it going down. The Phoenix Suns, your NBA champions of 2022.